Hello, it is the Niche. I am creating this video to give to my players a quick introduction to Foundry, the various controls, how it works, etc. So hopefully you'll be able to find this as a useful reference. If nothing else, it'll be a little orientation so that you know what you're looking at and know what to look for. I may be jumping around a bit as I'm recording this video as topics either show up or come to me, and I will try to make them a little more cohesive in the edit. So if you notice the soundtrack jumping around or windows moving, etc., that's me doing edits. Don't worry about it. When you log into the Forge, which is the third-party service I use to host my game, you will get a screen that probably looks something like this. If you have multiple games going on, you may need to choose which one. But for those of you who just have the one game, you will get a screen appropriate to your game. That will ask for your username and password. That is the game-specific one that I sent you. It is not your forge-vtt.com password. It is your game-specific password. So here I'm going to log in as TestItTom, who is my Game Master test character, test player. I go through and look at to see what the players see. And you will join the session. All right, it'll take a few seconds to log in depending on the server load, etc. All right, and I have my browser muted, so let me unmute that. All right, so when you've logged into the game, you will be greeted with a landing page, and the landing page will vary from campaign to campaign. But what I usually will put on the landing pages are the current group of player characters and any of their close allies. There will be a link to the campaign journal, which is something you can also reference in the upper right-hand corner, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And maybe some other maps or other things like a map of the region. In this particular case, I've included a link to Proving Grounds, and the Proving Grounds is just a little practice map that we can log into and play around with, and the monsters don't matter, and the players will get healed and everything else. But let me show you around a couple of things there are to see here. First off, Foundry prefers operating in Chrome of the various browsers, so if you have Chrome and are comfortable using it, you will probably get better performance. I am currently using Firefox for this demo because I have to have Forge open in Chrome on the Game Master side, so I already have that going on. Anyway, whatever browser you're using, one of the things you will need to do is to tell the browser to use hardware acceleration when it's available. And so what that will be somewhere in the settings of your browser, usually under performance or audio video settings. Just looking at Firefox, for instance, I have it in here under general, and then you scroll down a bit. Yeah, here we go. So in Firefox, it's just this little heading that says performance. Normally it has use recommended performance settings toggled on. If you're using Firefox, you'll have to toggle that off and tell it to use hardware acceleration when available. Chrome is very similar, except that it is in the more tools setting. If you really need me to, I can walk you through turning that on. But that's just so that your browser will have the most resources available for actually using the graphics, because Foundry definitely uses a lot of graphics. Now, another thing you'll want to do before you actually play is configure some of your settings. Now, there's a few that are important, and I've gone through and I've tried to set all of these as best I can. However, a lot of this stuff is stored locally on your computer, so you will need to have it adjusted. Make sure you have it adjusted there. So what you're going to do, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little gears icon, and that is your game settings. And in there, you're going to want to go into Configure Settings. Configure Settings has these three tabs: Core Settings, System Settings, and Module Settings. Now, System Settings you generally won't have to worry about. That's stuff about D&D 5e, so you can ignore that one completely. Core Settings, you're going to want to have a couple of things set up. I recommend this Panda token speaker defaults to on. I select you turn it off, because what that does is if a token pops up a chat dialog, your whole game will pan over to it, and later on, when we have some of the modules going that have tokens doing things and speaking and whatever else, that would create a giant whiplash. So leave that turned off. There's another one here that says left click to release objects. That defaults to off. I recommend you turn it on. That way, when you have stuff selected, you just left click somewhere else and it will deselect it. Right? Performance mode is something you're all going to have to change individually based on the system that you're on. If you have an older Mac, for instance, that doesn't like modern ray tracing graphics, you'll probably want to set this to low. If you have a super duper uber gaming machine that can play all the latest 3D rendered stuff, then try setting it to high or maximum and see what you get. And you can change it as you go. You can also adjust your maximum frame rate so that if your animations are too chunky or whatever, you can play around with this to see if you can smooth them out a little and possibly save on some system resources that way. There's a few others here, and you can play with each one of them. Light source animation I recommend leaving on because that's something we're going to use a lot. Token vision animation, the same. You're probably going to want to use that a lot. So leave those on unless you absolutely just cannot operate. Now in the other tab under module settings, most of this stuff you have very limited ability to control. That's all set up on the Game Master end. And they're probably not things you would want to change anyway, but there are a few. So Dice So Nice is a little fun thing that I set up for everybody, because I know I've got some dice goblins in my group, and so you can do a couple of things in here. My dice settings will let you customize what your dice look like. So if you want, you know, the default that Testa Tom has set up here is just brown. But if you want to set it to some kind of crazy rainbow dice, you can do that. And if you want to set it to glass crazy rainbow dice, etc., 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 you can do all kinds of things. And if you want to see what it looks like when you're rolling the dice, you just click Test Roll here. And that'll show you what it looks like when you roll a bunch of dice. If you don't care about 3D dice and or you don't want to take the performance hit because it can be quite draining, you can just turn off the 3D dice. Oh, I haven't saved my settings here. So if I turn it off and save it and do roll die 20, now you see we get a result up here in the upper right hand corner, but it didn't actually roll the dice. Whereas if I have the enable 3D dice turned on, do a save it, roll a d20, it'll roll the die across the room. And you can, you know, if you're frustrated, you can pick up the die and, oh, I hate you, you rolled terribly, or whatever. So you can have fun playing with that. You can also set where you want the dice to roll. So if you don't want them rolling all over the screen, you just want them to roll in one corner, you can do that. Image hover. If you hover over a token or whatever, it'll show the art for that token. It's set up to show the character portrait if there is one. Such as in the case of, where was it? One of these. Yeah, Dr. Brood here has a character portrait which is different from his character token art. So it will show the character portrait art. If you want to be able to zoom in on tokens and see what they look like, you can have that set. If you don't want it down there, if it just annoys you or gets in the way, you can turn it off completely. You can also change where it lands on the screen, its ratio, image to monitor width, etc. So if you want it smaller or larger, if you want it to delay a few seconds, which is probably a good way to do it. This lists in milliseconds, so like 500 milliseconds is going to be 5 seconds long. So, all right, pointers and pings, yes. So the pointer, if you are in the game and you hold down the X button, it will create a pointer that the rest of the players can see. Most of the time, the other players won't be able to see your mouse or whatever, so if you want people to see that, you need to hold down the X key. And while you're holding the X key, if you click, it will ping. And that's just like if you're familiar with the ping in Roll20, it's exactly the same deal. And you can choose what your pings and pointers look like. The color is going to be based on your player color when you first logged in. I believe there's a way to change player color. I have not looked into it. And you can choose what you want your different pointers to look like. I like the arrows. So I have mine set to the arrows, but you can do round, you can do triangle, you can do pin, whatever. So here's what ping arrows look like. So if you hold down the X to create the pointer, you point at whatever you want to ping and you click, boom, there's your X. And it just vibrates for a couple seconds and then goes away. So you don't have to worry about it just staying there forever. All right. Pop out is a little utility so that when you have something open, such as this configure game settings window, you will have a pop out option, and that's pops it out into a separate window, which can be very handy for managing real estate, especially if you're using multiple monitors. You could have your character sheet popped out onto a separate monitor so you can maximize the amount of screen you can see. Most of this other stuff you don't have to worry about. This is all set by the DM, so we're going to save changes and get out of there. All right. So having said all of that stuff, now we'll start looking around the Foundry screen. And what you get on the Foundry screen is up in the upper left-hand corner, up here, you have your HUD, and that's based on the character you're controlling. And what that is it shows various things that your character can do. And if you want to move it, you can move it around. I generally have my layouts set up so that they're accounting for it being up there, but you can put it wherever you want. And you can change the categories in your HUD. Some of the category choices that makes it by default are a little strange, but that's entirely up to you, however much you want to configure it. But there are some things of note. So right now I'm logged in as Tested Tom, who can control Bag of Nails or Init here. So I'm going to go do stuff as Bag of Nails, just because, he's my buddy. So having your character selected, when you go into the inventory, it will show you what weapons you have equipped. Now the equip versus unequip is an important distinction. If you don't have an item equipped, it won't let you use it through this. And that's something that's controlled on your character sheet. And so when you're in a combat and you want to use one of your weapons, most often you'll be clicking on this, although you can also click inside your character sheet. Characters' features are any of your unusual abilities. So, for instance, being a tabaxi, Bag of Nails has feline agility that he can use, and when he uses it, it marks off the resource. That's what this 1 of 1 is, until it recharges. And what recharges feline agility is that he holds still for a round. So that's something that's going to go on a case-by-case basis. You have your skills. These are all of the skills in the game, not like tool proficiencies and stuff, but all the core proficiencies. And you can see here, if it has 1 check, you are proficient. If it has 2 checks, you have expertise. I assume there's probably a half check or something for bards, but I haven't looked at it. And if I, as the DM, call on you to make a skill check, you can just go up here and click it. So if I ask Bag of Nails to give me a perception check, he just clicks right here. And I have the Dice So Nice turned on still, so you can see his roll. And the result shows up in the chat window over here. So single click is a normal roll. Advantage is alt click. Disadvantage is control click. Conditions will show whatever conditions are on you. So if Bag of Nails has been hit by some effect that blinded him, you can just click on blinded and it will show up on his character sheet here, and it will show you disadvantage on attack rolls and granting advantage to all those who attack. Most of this stuff has been automated into the combat system, and we'll go into that in a bit. Not everything, but most things. And then if the blindness gets removed, you can just click up here. Finally, over here, you have utility. Now, because Bag of Nails is an NPC, he has limited things in the utility. He can roll for initiative, and he can turn on combat, turn off combat. Player characters, because they track long rests and short rests, will also have an option to go up there. So if everybody takes a short rest, you have your character selected, you can go up here and select short rest, and it automatically replenish things that are properly flagged in the character sheet as replenishing on a short rest. Ditto with long rest. I haven't tested everything, so I don't know what things actually work or not, and that's something we're going to have to discover as we go along. All right, that is your HUD. Now over here on the upper left, there's a little caret hiding up in the corner, and if you hover over it, it says toggle navigation. And what that will do is that will show you the screens that you can go to. Most of the time, that's going to be whatever screen you are on, plus the home screen, and possibly a regional map screen. Which I have not set up the regional map for the Burning Coast yet, so I can't take you there yet. As games get large and complex and you want to be able to go reference things you've seen or haven't seen, you will have multiple screens up here that you can go explore. On the far left here, you have your toolbar, and it has a couple of different things. Now, most of the time, you'll want to be on token controls, which is this little person-y looking shape up here. And if you ever find yourself unable to do stuff inside the game, you probably need to go back and reselect this. Just like in Roll20, never having the select tool, what you're using, same thing. If something weird is happening, you probably don't have token control selected. And under the token controls, you have select tokens, and then if you just drag like this, it'll select all the tokens you have control over. You have the select targets. Now, I will get into targeting when we get into combat. Basically, when you're making an attack roll or casting a spell or something, you want to have somebody targeted. So what you will do is you will select target, and you will click on whoever you want to target. So right there, Kafina has been targeted. Now, the easier way to do that is hover over the character and hit the T key, T for target. Like I said, we'll get into that in combat. We have a distance measurer. And that's just, if you want to see how far Ringed is away from things, you just click and drag. So it's a rangefinder. You can also see how far things are from other things. Like, say, Bag of Nails wants to know how close Ringed is to Dr. Brood. He just clicks on Ringed, drags to Dr. Brood, and sees, oh, they're 45 feet away from each other. You might want that for movement, but I will show you some other options under movement. Measure distance with difficult terrain is, I have a module set up that will measure difficult terrain. It will also consider other characters to be difficult terrain, and a few other things. So if you want to see how far you can move, you'll want this turned on. If you just want to see the absolute distance between things, you'll want it turned off. And now it can be sometimes difficult to see whether a tool is turned on or off in Foundry. I'm looking to see if there are modules I can do to make that a little more obvious, but I haven't found any yet. This set elevation is not something you need to worry about. Now, clear blood is, when we get into the combat, you will see there are blood spatters, just little animation flourishes in a fight. If you hit somebody real hard, there'll be a blood splat. And if it's too gross or is causing a load on your performance, etc., you can just click on clear blood and that'll go away. Simple calendar tracks the calendar within the game. So if you open that up, most of the time it should open into this little small thing. You can see that in the Burning Coast game, it is the 25th of January in the year 1703 by North Kingdom Reckoning. So this is the calendar within the game, which makes it winter. At the time of when the characters are at this screen, it is 11 a.m. So it's 11 a.m. on the 25th of January inside the game. And if you double click on this bar, you can get a larger interface, and it will show you like the phases of the moon. And if there are any notes on a date, like if it's Liar's Night or some significant historical event is taking place, there will be notes for it. So there are no particular notes on this day. Connected to Simple Calendar, we have another little guy. It's a thing up here to show you the position of the sun and what time it is. So you don't have to ask me, is it morning, is it afternoon, whatever. You just have a little thing right up here, it'll show you. And if we go into Simple Calendar, actually I'll do it on the GM side. If I go into Simple Calendar and I move time forward a couple hours, boop, 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 you can see the sun moving across the sky. It gets to 6 o'clock, it becomes night. 7 gets dark, 8, 9, etc. So, or I can scroll back. I can make time move forward or backward as the GM because I have amazing magical powers that way. But point is, you can watch the trajectory of the sun and you can know what time it is. Generate loot for selected token is not something you will ever need, so don't worry about it. That's my job. Find my token is going to be a handy one on large maps. So if you log into a screen and all you see is black because you're nowhere near where your token is, or if it's a giant hairy mess of a scene and there's tokens everywhere and you can't find yourself, you just click here. So because I currently have Bag of Nails selected, if I do find my token, it will highlight Bag of Nails. But of course, on this particular screen, there's no panning, it's just a landing screen. So show sequencer database and show sequencer effects viewer, you don't have to think about those are DM things. All right, so those are all the token controls. Ruler controls are or measurement controls. You can select templates, and I'll talk about that a little later on. You can create a circle template. So if you want to create a 15-foot circle, boom, now you have a 15-foot circle, and while you can move it around, well, you can't move it around while the game is paused. Let me unpause the game. All right, so you can move it around, put it wherever you want, etc., or you can delete it. You can create a cone template. Zoop. And when you have a template in place that is not completely symmetrical, such as the template here, you rotate it by having it selected and then holding down the control key and using your mouse wheel. It'll rotate like so. For Mac users, since you don't have a mouse wheel most of the time, you're going to do the 2-finger scrolling on your pad. So when you have a template down, when you're done with the template, you just select it here in the center and you delete it, and that'll get rid of it. And that will become important later when you're doing spell effects. And again, you can do a square or a rectangle, and you can make it any size or shape you want. And then array template, again, the array template is a line, so wrong one. Select the array template, boop, and you can see where your array will go. Boop. All right. Now, for most spells, you will not need to do that because it will be automated in the spell, and I'll show you that in a bit. Journal notes is not something you will need to worry about, so don't worry about it. And again, the sequencer layer, you don't need to worry about the sequencer layer. So that is your left-hand token controls, or your left-hand control bar. Now on the right hand over here, we have the chat log, which is pretty much what you expect. Whenever there's a whispered message or a combat notification or anything like that, that goes in here. If you have a character selected and you type in here, I am Bag of Nails, the token that you have selected will say it as if it was a piece of dialogue. Now this is why I suggested earlier that you have pan to speaker turned off, because in crowded city situations where lots of tokens are hawking their wares or whatever else, you don't want to have this going because it'll just pan around constantly and drive you nuts. The next one over is the combat tracker. Now I have a combat tracker set up so that combat information like the initiative tracker, etc., will show up in the upper hand, and then the chat window will be in the lower hand. So when a combat starts, you can just stay here. You don't have to toggle back and forth between your chat windows. All right, so the actors directory, this is a list of characters that you either have the ability to look at them or to control them. So for instance, Test It Tom can control Bag of Nails and Anit, but cannot control Revion. But Tested Tom can look at Revion. Now, Revion doesn't have anything in his biography, so he doesn't see anything here. But if Tested Tom looks at Dr. Brood, I thought Dr. Brood had more biography here, but I guess not. Okay, but if you look at a character with a biography, let's try Queen Zalcore. Yeah. So if you look at a character in the actors directory with a biography, it'll show you their biography. And if you look at a character that you control in here, it will show you the full character sheet. So Bag of Nails, Tested Tom can control Bag of Nails. Bag of Nails has a full-fledged character sheet. And when I get to actually doing stuff with the player character, I'll go into that in more detail. The actor directory, I believe actually it should be a subset of the journal directory, but it is not set up that way. The actors and the journal are two separate things. So the way I had it set up in Roll20 was that journal entries and actors were all visible in the same place, so you could just go through it like they were all things to look at. So unfortunately, Foundry does not support that. Now, items is not a thing that you're going to worry about most of the time. That's mostly where I put like magic items or variant spells or whatever. And so if I create something to drop onto your character, you might see it over here, but most of the time you don't have to worry about it. Rollable tables, most of the time that's not something the players are going to need to deal with, so ignore that. Card stack, same deal. Now the music and the volume controls, this is something where you have a certain amount of control. You can control the relative levels of different types of sounds. So playlists, like the music that's in the background here, that's on a playlist. The ambient sounds is things like doors opening or explosions going off or things like that. And then the interface is like when they're rolling the dice. That's an interface thing. Crank it all the way down if you don't want to hear it anymore. And that won't affect the other players, just you. I skipped right over the journal. Well, I'll come back to the journal. Over here we have the compendiums. And there's some stuff in here that is mostly for me, so don't worry about it. If there's something you need out of a compendium, I will pull it out and show it to you. Otherwise, don't worry about it. The configuration tab, you saw already. Most of the stuff you don't need to worry about. If you want to change your keyboard layout or whatever, you can do that under configure controls. And there's some other possibly useful things there. And you also can go back to the join screen or back to the forge if you want to log out. So I completely skipped over the journal tab, so let me come back to that. So the journal tab, that is like the journal that you had in Roll20. So it's got folders with different information set up, and it's got journal entries that you can look at. Let us find a good one here. Let's try the lineage of Omu. All right. So this is a piece of this is a handout from the campaign that you have already seen if you're in the campaign. That just describes the royal lineage of the city of Omu. But you notice it also has, to the right, it has the rest of your journal entries. This is not something that's native to Foundry. This is a module that I have installed. But I found that made it a lot easier to sort of navigate and to show the players the journal all at once. Because if I mention something is in the journal, you have to, is it in the actors tab, is it in the journal, etc. It's in the journal. Everything is going to be accessible there. So you can either click up here or on the home screen. I have a link right here off to the left. So I'll set up my pointer off over here. I have a link to the campaign journal, and that will just take you to sort of an intro page, and then you can choose what you want to look at. So if you're in here and you want to look at the Eye of Midnight, you get information about the Eye of Midnight. If you want to take a look at Skooma, you can go in and look at the information about Skooma. And there's the picture for Skooma. Yep. Like your magic items and things like that will have descriptions in there. And the journal's also cross-link. So if you look at, we'll go back to the lineage of Omu. There's a link to Nangalore. So it'll take you to the journal entry on Nangalore. So that's what's up with that. So most of the time, the journal is where you're going to find information about the world or handouts, things like that. Sometimes on a character's biography, there may be stuff that is not in the journal or vice versa, just because a lot of this stuff I've imported over from Roll20 and we have that weirdness. As I move forward, I'm going to try and make it consistent that everything is in the journal rather than in the actors tab. So, but stuff that already exists in the game, I'm probably not going to go back and edit at this stage. So that's the basics of the interface and the landing page. Now let's go into actually interacting with the character, and for that I'm going to log out of Test It Tom. Go back to the join screen here. And I will log in using one of my players. So I'm going to log in using Multiclass Geek for the moment. I'm going to join the game session. All right, so here we are, logged in as Multiclass Geek. And she only has control over her own character, Kafina. Right? And so, like, if she tries to do anything with Ringid or Bag of Nails, etc., she won't be able to. She only has control over her own character. However, if you look in the Actors tab, you can see under Conjurations some spells. Now, she does have control over some of these beings, and they're going to show up when she casts a spell. So, for instance, if she casts, go up to the HUD here, and she casts Arcane Eye, that will come up with the Companion Manager. Now, the Companion Manager will show companions that you have permission to use. So in this particular case, when it was activated by the Arcane Eye spell, the Companion Manager showed the Arcane Eye icon. And what you do here is you click on here, and it'll give you a little targeting reticle, and you say where you want the Arcane Eye to show up, and you just click there. And kerpoof, there's the Arcane Eye. Now, because Multiclass Geek has permission to use the Arcane Eye, she can move it wherever she wants. So, and you'll notice it also automatically put concentration on Kafina. That is something that ties into the combat module. The combat module will automatically make concentration checks for you when you take damage. So that's something we don't have to keep trying to remember, because it is supposed to be an important balancing tool, and we consistently forget it. So anyway, when the spell ends, she can just delete the Arcane Eye. I think she can delete it. No? I guess the GM has to delete it. So when the spell ends, I will delete it over here. Kapoof. And I will also remove the concentrating status off of Kafina. All right. And again, you notice up here in the utilities, now we have the short rest and long rest. We also have whether you have inspiration or not. And since I used one of her spells, I'm going to go ahead and give her a long rest. And it'll say, is it a new day? Now, what that means is if you have things that recharge per day, such as magic items or character abilities, things like that, it should automatically recharge those. They might not all be tied in yet. A lot of this stuff is still under development. But anything that has been flagged properly, when she clicks that, it'll recharge. So, okay, let's take her to a map. So let's say you're on the adventure, and I say, all right, you guys go into the Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, which is a scene I have set up. That's what this link over here is for. That's just our little sandbox that we can play in. On the GM side, I will activate the scene, and that will take her over there. All right. Now, inside the Proving Grounds, the way it starts is the characters are all in this cell. Here we have Kafina. If you click and drag, she can walk around the cell. And what you have here, when I scroll here, the green indicates that it is within her free movement. However, if you drag past the green and into the yellow, what that shows is it has stopped being free movement and requires a dash action. And when we're not in combat, that doesn't matter. You can just move wherever you want. When we're in combat, that will be a factor. However, you can also, when you're dragging, if you hit the space bar, that will create a waypoint. And you can do that as many times as you want. So here you see she's walking completely around the room, and you see the red where it turned into, that's far beyond even a dash action, and that comes into movement that is not legal on a single turn. Doesn't mean the character can't do it. It means that, or it doesn't mean the token can't do it. It means the character can't do it if we're in combat, and so that's just a little flag to let you know what's going on. So if I let go with all these waypoints selected, you can just watch the token take a walk. The other way to move around is with the video game style WASD keys. So if I do A, it'll go to the left, S will go down, D will go to the right, W will go up. That creates more precise movement sometimes, specifically if you're in tight chambers and you don't want to keep getting a message saying that path takes you through a wall, that path takes you through a wall. Like if you try to drag Kafina over here, it'll say that collides with at least one wall, which means you can't go there. So, but if you want to just go to the right as far as you can keep doing that till you get to the wall and stop. And so down here, you can see there's a little force field, and that is set up as a door, and it prevents Kafina from going through. All right. If, as the GM, I then open the door, door is open, Kafina can move through. So we'll go back over here and go ahead and walk her through. All right. Now this zombie that popped up out of nowhere, what that is this room is dim, and I haven't actually set the light correctly, so let me go back and redo that. This is something I should have done before the video, but I completely forgot, so I'll go ahead and fix it now. So the dungeon is supposed to be dark, so let me fix that. And we'll come back up in here. All right, so now we're seeing the dungeon as it was supposed to look before I logged you in, and so I will try to remember to fix that when we're actually playing. But so here she is in the dark, and you can see the light source of this glowy magic circle. If I close the door again, because it's a little force field, boom, you can see the force field also has a little light source on it. Now, there's going to be a lot of this stuff in Foundry. The Roll20 was capable of doing a lot of this stuff, but was not very good at it. Foundry has it all built in, but what that does mean is there's going to be graphics stuff coming up, so that's why you need to adjust your performance. Anyway, so we'll open the door, come back over here to Kafina. Now Kafina is a halfling, so she does not have dark vision. So if you see her go into this dim light area, you notice that her token switches to monochrome, to black and white, because her own vision is monochrome. She can barely see. And as she comes back into the regular light, you can see the color comes back into her token. So if she comes down in here, she can't see at all. It's dark, except for where she's already explored, or the space immediately around her. And what that's doing is that's clearing away the fog of war. Now you see the zombie that keeps appearing. She can't see him unless she's right up next to him. And she's aware of his presence. But if she's not right up next to him, she can't see him at all because it is dark. However, we have down in the lower left-hand corner, and it can be very hard to see, there is a macro bar, and you can lock that so it stays up. In fact, I recommend doing that, but that's entirely up to you. And I have created a macro here called Waka Nuts. And on the Burning Coast, you have Waka Nuts, and you can shake them, and they will light up the room. And for players in my other games, I will set up a version of this that suits the other game. So it's just going to be called, Torchlight or something like that. But anyway, and we'll go into macros a little more when we get into combat. But what Waka Nuts does is, you shake a Waka Nut, it will glow. So you can shake your nut, yes. So she's going to shake her Waka Nut. Oh, you have to have your token selected and then shake your Waka Nut, sorry. Shake your Waka Nut, and suddenly the light turns on and she can see all the zombies in there, and she's like, you know what, I don't want to see those zombies, so she's going to snuff the Waka Nut. Now she feels much better because she can't see all the zombies. But if you notice, there were some other options. If she was carrying a candle, she could light the candle. She's carrying a torch, she can light the torch. If she has light or produce flame, she could cast those. Those will not track the usage. You will still have to actually cast them from your utility up here or from your character sheet to mark off that the spell slot has been used. This just changes the light on the token. If you have a moon-touched item, such as Shade of the Candle's moon-touched sword, you can activate the light on that. So if we have Kafina light a torch, boop, you can see that it's a slightly yellow light. It's flickering just a little bit. That's because it's torchlight. And if you change it to a produce flame, boop, it's a little more orangey, it's a little more flickery, it's a little less of a range. If you change it to a light spell, boop, it's just a bright, like you're carrying a fluorescent lamp kind of thing. All right, and because I don't want to go into combat yet, the zombies are just going to ignore her. So she's going to go back to having a waka nut. All right. So she's walking around. As she walks around, you can cover up another token with your token, even though according to the rules, you cannot occupy the same space as another character except under special circumstances, and you cannot move through an enemy. Foundry does not have anything that will track that. We'll just have to go on the honor system for that. However, it is smart enough that if you try to drag your character using the tool I set up before, it will notice that you're going through somebody and treat them as difficult terrain. So instead of 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, you're looking at 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. Whereas if you come over here, do 5 feet, go up north, suddenly it becomes 15 feet, etc. So it's recognizing that the zombies are difficult terrain. And it will do that, I believe it'll do that for characters that are alive or dead. All right, and so let's move on from this room full of zombies and go out here. Now, out here we have a lava trap, but we also have a lot of things going on here. So let us talk about some of the things that are going on here. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see what's happening. This room has multiple levels. See, there's this walk that she's on down below, but there's also a catwalk up above with a platform. So down here, the parts of the platform that are casting shadows on the level she's on are casting these weird looking shadows. There is a goblin on top of the platform, 15 feet up, that she can see, but she can also see that he's 15 feet up. There's also these magmen that are walking around inside the lava. Now, they are immune to fire, so they're not hurt by the lava. And if the magmen walk around, it goes kaboom. It's indicating that there's lava damage. Yeah, but they are immune to it, so they don't actually take the damage, even if it flags that the damage is happening. However, if Kafina steps into the lava, she takes some damage from the lava. So that is set up to automatically happen on this particular map. That's something that I set up. That's not something that Foundry automatically knows how to do. So we'll move her back out of the fire, and we will heal her up. And I'll do that on that side by just automatically undoing the damage. All right. So anyway, so because this goblin is up on top of the platform, he's 15 feet up, she can see that. There's also up flying around through the air a Margoyle, but she couldn't see him because he was too far away. He was outside of the range of her light spell. So when he flies into the range of the light, she can see him. When he flies out, she can't. But she can see the magmen down here because the lava itself is a light source. So if she turns off her waka nut, boop, there's still some light in this room because the lava glows. But the glow of the lava only goes up a certain height. So if the goblin that she could see before with her waka nut light, she can't see now because the light from the lava is too dim to illuminate him. So we'll turn the waka nut back on. Shake your waka nut. poof, and now she can see the goblin. All right, and so we're going to have her walk up onto the catwalk. You can see the blood splat I was talking about before from when she got damaged by the lava. All right, so she caught a glimpse of something down in the left-hand corner there, but when she comes around here, she can't see it anymore. All right, and so here she wants to walk up the stairs. Now, there's a couple things going on here. If you drag her up here, it will say no because I have set up an invisible wall here so you can't accidentally walk off of the catwalk up here. However, if I drag her like that, she can walk up onto the platform. Now her elevation has become plus 15 feet. She's not getting the light from the lava down below, which is why this looks dark now. She can still see the lava down below, but she's not getting any illumination from it. And she can walk along the catwalk here. And she can see, oh wait, there were plenty of other goblins besides just that one. And there's also whatever the heck that is over there. And as she walks across, she can see, oh wow, there's a lot of goblins up here. And now she can see the gargoyle that was flying around because she's at the same elevation that he is. And so you can either click and drag to walk around, you can WASD to walk around. And when she walks across the stairs, it will automatically move her up or down. She has to leave the tile that has the stairs in it in order to refresh it. So if you step into the tile with the stairs and then step back out again, without having exited off the other side, now she's magically floating 15 feet above where she's supposed to be doing that. That's just a weird little quirk of the game. If you notice that your elevation is wrong, or if you like cast a fly spell or something and you should be at a different elevation, you can click on your character here, and there's a little window over here, and you just set your elevation to what it should be. And we will go work on the honor system to assume that you don't just magically levitate yourself all the time. All right, so that's multiple levels. We're going to move Kafina around. And so there's a big old Minotaur interface, a skeleton Minotaur interface. But because I don't want to mess with combat yet, I'm not going to show you anything. Now here she can see a magic circle. She can't see any of the stuff around the magic circle, but she can see the magic circle. So she's going to go in there. And I happen to know, well, first you can hear the sound of the magic circle. It was not something that was in the regular room, the regular level ambience. This is something coming out of the magic circle itself. I happen to know that this is a healing circle, so I'm going to temporarily injure Kafina. We'll take her down by 20 hit points. All right. And she walks into the healing circle. The angel statue lights up. The healing spell goes off. She regains 17 hit points. So there will be a lot of effects built into the map this way. And I will show you another one of those in a minute. Anyway, she walks away from the magic circle, and the soothing music fades away. All right, and she comes in here. There's another doorway going off to who knows where. Comes in here. There's more minotaurs and zombies and et cetera, et cetera. So that's what moving around inside a dungeon looks like. And the last thing I'm going to do with Kafina is I'm going to show off the arcane hand. So, say she wants to make sure these minotaurs don't bother her. So she's going to cast her arcane hand spell. Now, the reason it's arcane hand and not Bigby's hand is because the spells are built off of the system resource document, the SRD, rather than coming directly out of like the player's handbook or D&D Beyond. And that's because of a module I have set up that will automate how they work, and that is built off the SRD. So that's why she's got Arcane Hand here instead of Bigby's hand. Anyway, so once again, when she cast Arcane Hand, it called up the Companion Manager, and she can put the Arcane Hand where she wants it. Bloop. All right, so now she's got this arcane hand that she can move around and control. Now the arcane hand has attack rolls. If you want to use the forceful hand, the clench fist, etc. And for that, you will need a target before you can make the attack. So there was the targeting emblem over here. There's also D for target, like I said before. So if Kafina targets the Minotaur and she makes an attack roll with the arcane hand, it will roll. And so that was, looks like it was a hit and did 16 points of damage to the Minotaur. All right, so you can start to see how combat works just with that. So I'm going to untarget the Minotaur here, and we're going to get rid of the arcane hand spell. Boop. And we're going to get rid of the concentration off Kafina. Boop. This has already shown you a lot of the basics. And I'm going to put Kafina back into the cell with everybody else. And we're going to pull out another character to show you some other things that are going on. So, Kafina, go on back in here. Back in the playhouse. And we'll close the door. Alright, I'm going to go back out to the join screen, and I'm going to rejoin as Carathris the Druid. So Carathris is played by Sir Fox. Now Carathris is a very complex character with a lot going on. Kafina was a wizard, which is complex enough, but Carathris is kind of bonkers, so we will get into that eventually. Alright, here we are. So here's Carathris. She's just hanging out. She's uninjured. Now, Carathris, if I double click on Carathris, she also does not have infravision. Okay, or dark vision. So she's going to use her Produce Flame spell. So we're going to cast Produce Flame, which is a cantrip. She's not going to attack anybody with. She's just marking off that it's been cast. And then she'll go down here to, go ahead and lock Waka Nuts. And she's casting Produce Flame. Boom. So now she's carrying around a Produce Flame, and she can see. All right, so I'm going to go over here and open the door. So Carathris can wander around. She says hello to the zombies. And she looks out here and sees, oh, wow, this place is full of fire. I want to do something about that. So she's going to back up on here. And she is going to use her wild shape to change into a fire elemental. So to do that, there's a couple of things going on. First, she goes into her features and selects elemental wild shape. And do I have a tracker for that? No, just a regular wild shape up here. So she's going to click there. Consume available usage, yes. Consume resource, yes. Boop. So that indicates that she's used one of her 2 wild shape abilities. That didn't do anything to her token. That just marked off her on her character sheet that she's used wild shape. However, we have a folder here called Carathris Wild Shape, and it has a list of all the things that she can currently wild shape into. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up her character sheet. You can do that from the actor tab, or you can double click on the token, which is a faster way of doing it. And she wanted to change into a fire elemental, so we're going to find the fire elemental. There it is. And we're going to drag the token onto her character sheet, drop it. Now it's going to ask for this, it's going to give you this transforming actor dialogue, and it's going to ask you all the things you want to do. These are custom settings. However, she's doing a wild shape, so it's going to automate using the wild shape settings. We click that, and boom. So 2 things have happened. First, her character sheet has changed. So now she is Carathris Fire Elemental. So it's going to track the hit points for the Fire Elemental form. And it's going to track all of the senses and other abilities that she has as a Fire Elemental. And so I can either pop out this window, or I can double click it to minimize it, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click back on here. Now, as a fire elemental, she has dark vision. So she's looking around this room. It's all in grayscale because that's how dark vision actually works, according to the rules. Is in dim light you can see, but you can't see color. So this is how it works. So she's going to wander out here. Now she has to squeeze through this corridor, so it's only going to show half of her token. But she can walk out here and she can just saunter into the lava, and it'll go kaboom and roll a bunch of dice. But she doesn't actually take any damage because she's immune to it. Because the way this trap is set up, every time she walks across the fire, it's going to just keep on doing that, kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. But it's not actually going to hurt her. Alright, so this is one of the situations where you might want to turn off the dice, otherwise you're going to be watching them go all out all evening. But anyway, now here we want her to not be walking through the lava anymore, but because fire elementals are large, her token takes up so much space that she can't really get out of the lava. So what we're going to do is she's going to step on here, and now none of her is in the lava, even though some of her is hidden by the wall. She's squeezing down the hallway. All right? And so when she wants to go up to the upper level, she's going to have to do the same thing. Now this saying the attempted movement collides with floor or ceiling, that is a fluke of how large interacts with the multiple levels, and there's not much I figured out how to do that. So we're gonna, since it didn't automatically move her up to the upper level, I'm gonna manually give her plus 15 feet, and now she's walking around up on the level up above. All right, and so she can move all around. Can't step off of the catwalk because I have an invisible wall preventing people from accidentally stepping off the catwalk. However, if the Margoyle over here, for instance, let's close this, were to come over and let me get my select. Rathers can't do it. I have to do it on the medium screen. Okay, so if this Margoyle were to come over here and push her off of the thing, since Karathris can't move herself off, then as the GM, I would have to shove her off over here, or probably down to over here, and again, change her altitude to 0 feet, because fire elementals can't fly, and she lands in the lava and it goes kaboom, but she doesn't actually take any damage because as a fire elemental she's fireproof. Right? So that's the basics of that. Now when this whole thing is over and she wants to stop being a fire elemental, wants to go back to being Karathris, she'll open up her modified character sheet, and up at the top there's a little thing here that says Restore Transformation. And you click on that, her token goes back to regular size. Notice that her light went out so she can't see, but she's using her regular character sheet again. Alright, so while I've got her character sheet open, let's take a look at some stuff. So your skills over here, your abilities over here, your basic abilities here in the middle, that should all be fairly easy to figure out. Hit points, armor class, movement, all that stuff. When I clicked on the wild shape before, it asked if it wanted to consume a resource. That's this resource right here. And it tracks it in two places that are not connected to each other. That's something where I think they're working on integrating that and just haven't yet. So if you look on the feature screen, here's her wild shape feature, and it has uses, one of two. So that was when she used the feature, wild shape. You saw it had consume available usage, consume resource. So the one on the feature itself is the available usage. The consume resource is this one up here. We're going to close that. She's not going to do either one. But if we go into utility and we give her a long rest, yes, it's a new day. Boom. You can see it recovered one of the wild shape uses. And if you look under the feature screen, you can see it recovered one of the wild shape uses. All right, what else? So inventory is just all the stuff she's carrying around. And so every character is going to have a bunch of stuff here. And looks like she's not wearing any armor, but she's carrying a shield, so she has the shield equipped. She's carrying a scimitar, which she has equipped. You always have an unarmed strike equipped, etc. And she's carrying some of this other stuff. So she's got an Eldritch Claw tattoo that has a single ability or a single charge once per day, gives her reach on her natural attacks. She has this Carrier of Unk, which is a campaign-specific thing. She's currently being semi-possessed by a nature spirit named Unk, who has given her 23 Constitution. And that is something I set up in D&D Beyond, and it came forward here. When we update the characters, if she gets rid of Unk, we can change it back to what it's supposed to be. But in the meantime, you can see under effects, the Carrier of Unk has a constant effect. And I don't think she can actually see it. Yeah, she can't see it or edit it. Oh, it looks like maybe she can. But that's something that basically you should leave for me to deal with. And she also has a constant effect of her natural armor going on. Right, and biography is just, it has all the personality traits and all of that jazz. Spellbook is the spells that she knows and or has prepared. Now, because she's a druid, she knows all of the druid spells, so this is a long list. The ones that she has prepared have the little toggle set up, and if you ever want to just look at your prepared spells, you can click on this filter here, and it'll just show you the prepared spells. So that's going to be a thing that Kafina's going to want to be able to do too, is look at her prepared spells. But if you want to change your spells, you click off of that, and you say you want to get rid of Goodberry and learn Animal Friendship. You would unprepare that one and prepare that one. I'm going to set her back to what she had as her default. All right, and then the Features tab has basically all of her special features, and when you want to use one, you can click it here. Like if you wanted to wild shape, you could click wild shape here, and it would give you the same dialogue as you did up before. If you want to have her swing her scimitar, let's close this. Boop. If you wanted to have her swing her scimitar, you could do that from here. So it would just swing. She's randomly swinging her scimitar with advantage. Well, we'll roll there, and so you see she rolled with advantage. She got a 25, did 7 points of damage to whatever she was attacking. Now, since Carathris uses her wild shape a lot, she could choose to put her wild shape into the macro bar. And the way she would do that is she'd just drag it right down here, and boom. So now it's in the macro bar. That's the same as clicking it here or clicking it up in the HUD. So this wild shape and the wild shape that was on our character sheet, same wild shape that's down here. So we have Carathris selected. We're going to go over here. She's going to use her wild shape. Consume available usage, yes. Consume resource, yes. Usability. And so here she is. She's wild shaped again. This time she's going to just wild shape into some sort of a beast. So we go into the actors directory. Let's say she wants to wild shape into... we'll make her an ape. She wants to wild shape into an ape. Boop. Click on wild shape. And there she is, Carathris the ape. Ape can't see because it's dark. She has a particular ability that lets her use her produce flame spell when she's shapeshifted. So that shows up here. And we're going to say she cast her produce flame. And I'm going to use my Wakanut macro to change the token to be lit up. So now we have an ape carrying around a produce flame spell, looking at zombies, walking around, trying not to step in the lava, etc. Right? And so let's go back in, or let's go a little further on and show off some of those other effects. So we're going to walk through here. We're going to explore another part of the Proving Grounds. All right, so here we have another magic circle, and those are always suspect. So when she steps on the stairs, she steps back down to the regular level. The magic circle is all flashy and stuff. So she steps into the magic circle, nothing happened there. Steps into the magic circle, nothing happened there. Steps into the magic circle, nothing happened there. Okay, so what happens if we come back? Nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. Nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Oh, wait, something happened. So there's a trap set there that has a certain chance of going off and doing some kind of effect. This particular one she stepped on teleported her into the healing circle. So that was a beneficial effect, but it could have been something nasty. So because that has a certain amount of chance of going off, it didn't happen until she went over it a few times. We're going to come over here into this other part of the proving grounds. Excuse me, fellas. All right. That seems like something that can't be good. And so what we've got is some kind of a trapped hallway here. So now we're going to see how the same deal works with traps. So she steps forward. All right. Trap shot a laser at her. Now, if you look at the chat record, it doesn't show anything here because I don't have the lasers stuff set to public. But obviously it didn't hit her, didn't hurt her, but you do see that it has this red target here, or this red dot here. What that dot means is that something has targeted the ape, right? So on my screen, which you can't see, Carathris, the ape form of Carathris has the target emblem. So if I target, that's what it looks like on my end. So she can tell she's been targeted, and because of the red dot, that indicates to the GM. She can tell that the GM controls has targeted her. But it didn't hit her, didn't do any damage. So she's like, okay, well, let's move on then. And she steps forward again. Another trap goes off. All right. That one called for a saving throw, and it's set to automatically roll it. And she rolled a 17 because she's in her ape form. So I guess she rolled an 18. Because she's in her ape form, it has a -1. Became a 17. But that still beat the difficulty of the trap. So she can see that it called for a charisma saving throw. Nothing happened to her, so she must have passed. All right, so she moves on. All right, so there was another saving throw. She rolled a 16, and with the apes +6 to dexterity saves, came up as a 22. However, it still does damage on a successful save. So Carathris took some damage there and became badly injured. It's not showing how much damage she took, but that's just because of the way that this particular one is set up. But I mean, she can figure out. She knew how many hit points that she had. She knew how many she's got now. She took 14 points of damage. So that's not particularly a secret or anything. It's just not set up to show. But anyway, she's pretty badly injured now. So that's something that's going to be worrisome. She steps forward again, and the final trap goes off, and it sets her to unconscious, and does this. Now, if this was just an ape character, she would be starting to make death saves here. But because it is a polymorphed player character, we double click on here, go up here and restore transformation, and it turns her back into Carathris, and it's supposed to count the carryover damage, but I didn't keep track of it, so she lucked out there, and she's completely healed up. It killed her transformation. And she's going to come back in here and go over the magic circle and see maybe if it'll take her back to the healing. Yes, it did. So, poof. Teleported her back to the healing circle. She feels much better. Right. So, that will be all of the sort of normal stuff. Now, one last thing I'm going to do here is do a quickie combat so you can see how combat works. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag Karathris back into this room. So the player couldn't do that. The player would be stopped by walls in between, but because I'm the GM, I can put her wherever I want her. So I'm putting her back in here, and she's going to be in the cell with everybody else. And we're going to say Kafina casts a light spell. So she's going to shake her Wakanut. So we're going to cast a light spell. Boop. All right. So now, because Kafina has a light lit up, and I did that on the GM side, controlling Kafina's character, everybody else can see. So we're going to have everybody come walking in here. Boop. Can't walk through the wall. She's going to walk in here and go, oh my gosh, zombies. And Charlie the Bugbear Barbarian is going to go, zombies, oh boy! Except Karathris can't move Charlie, so Charlie's player, or in my case, or in this particular instance, the GM would move Charlie. Charlie can see, he's got dark vision, so he's fine. But that's not going to show up for Karathris. And Bag of Nails is going to hang back, and Eat's going to hang back. Dr. Brood is going to come forward, and he has a magic ability that enables him to turn invisible. So he's going to go poof and turn invisible. That's not what I meant to do. He's going to get the invisibility condition rather than hiding the token. So that's going to be... He has a magic ability that enables him to turn invisible, so he's going to turn invisible. Poof. Now, because the token has not been set to invisible, he just has the invisible condition, the players can still see him. Revion is going to come... Revion, I have to control as the GM side, sorry. Is going to come forward, so he gets a line of sight on the zombies. Rinjit, being a monkey sort of character, will come running forward. And Kafina will move forward so that she can provide some light. But she's going to be behind Dr. Brood. Not that anybody can tell, because Dr. Brood is invisible. Alright, so now we're going to actually do a combat here. As the GM, I'm going to select everybody. Whoop, and I will put you into combat mode. Alright, so I had a little weirdness going on. I'm going to redo this fight from the beginning. So we're going to reset the zombies full health. Okay, so let us redo this whole combat from the beginning. Alright, so I'm going to select everybody. And I'm going to put them into a combat state. Boop. Alright, so you can see over here, nobody has an initiative roll yet. The fight has not started. This is everybody who's involved. Since Karathris controls herself, she can roll her initiative. Alright, and for the GM, I'm going to roll all the NPC's initiative. And because I'm currently controlling the other player characters as well, I'm going to roll initiative for Charlie, and Revion, and Rinjit, Dr. Brood, Bag of Nails, Kafina, and Anit. Alright. So you can see the initiative tracker sorted everything, sorted everybody by what their initiative roll was. And we will begin the fight. Alright, so we're going to begin combat. Alright, a little boing noise, let you know that combat started. Movement change to combat turn means that you can't just freely move around. It'll keep track of what movement you've taken. So we're going to start with Charlie. Or no, we're going to start with Bag of Nails. I'm sorry, Bag of Nails' turn. He's going to move all the way back here, and he's going to target a zombie that he can see. Right? And he's going to take a shot at the zombie. Alright, and so that was a hit for 9 points of damage. And now Bag of Nails normally has multi-attack, but I want this example fight to go quickly, so I'm not going to bother with that. Alright, so then it becomes Charlie's turn. You can see the turn marker move to Charlie, and he has already charged down here because reasons, and he's going to attack. He's going to attack the zombie next to him with his vicious battle axe. All right, and so Carathris can see Charlie's attack rolls because they are allies. See how much damage he did to the zombie. Now she can't see how many hit points the zombie actually has, but she can see that he is near death. So this has been a very badly wounded zombie versus the uninjured one next to it. Right, and so that ends Charlie's turn. The lazy zombie is going to step forward. Lazy zombie is going to step forward and take a swipe at Carathris. So you can see here. I need to kill that moonbeam. Hang on a second. We're going to end that, and we're going to end the concentration. All right. So anyway, so that was a glitch left over from when I had the error before. All right, so this lazy zombie stepped forward and targeted Carathris. You can see she has the little red icon indicating that she's been targeted by something. And he's going to attempt a slam attack on her. Whoop. And so she can see he rolled an 8. He missed. You can also see that his attack roll is, he's got a +3 here. This is stuff I currently have set to show everybody. I haven't decided whether I want to keep it that way or I want to hide it. Right now it's set to show. So if you have a preference on that, let me know. All right, and that ended that zombie's turn. Dr. Brood does something invisible. We're going to skip over him for the moment. This clumsy zombie down here is also going to target Carathris because she's our example at the moment. All right. Now, clumsy zombie has to fight through Ringgit here. So Carathris has a little bit of cover from Ringgit. So that's what this little icon right here shows. So he's going to swipe at Carathris. You can see here at the end of his attack roll, that's a -2. That's the cover provided by Ringgit. So he rolled a total of 3, which is a big ol' miss. And that's going to end his turn. And so this harsh zombie, he's going to target Carathris, and he's going to take a slam. And, you know, they're zombies. They're not very good. So the busted zombie down here, he's going to move forward. I have to do this on my screen. He's going to move forward. And that's, I'm going to end his turn there. Ringgit does something cool and interesting. This zombie way in the back, who's near death because Charlie has been wailing on him, is going to stay near death. Ditto this zombie hiding in the corner that nobody can see except Charlie. Init is going to have a turn. She's going to do something cool and interesting. Actually, I'll go ahead and summon Init's spiritual weapon so you can see how that looks. Spells. Cast the spiritual weapon, please. Okay, once again, things are being... I have to learn what I'm doing. Alright, for some reason it doesn't want to need to cast your spiritual weapon, so I don't know what's going on there. Spellbook. Spiritual weapon. No, it just won't. Okay. So I'll have to figure out what's going on with that. So we'll move on. So Init ends her turn. Alright. Now that boom noise was... It became Kafina's turn. Kafina goes before Carathris, so Carathris has gotten a notification that her turn is coming up next. And that's just so if the players, you know, are like looking at their phones or on a side conversation or something, they'll get a notice, hey, your turn is coming up. You might want to pay attention to what's going on. All right, so we're going to have Kafina. Kafina, I'm going to have cast, something big and destructive. Let's try... Oh, you know what? First she's going to move past Dr. Brood. And she's got a lovely lightning bolt lineup set, so we're going to have her cast a lightning bolt. And so she's going to drop the template right there. And you can see as the template moves what her auto-targeting changes. So she likes that setup, and she fires off her lightning bolt. Kazats! This was normal damage on the zombies, so they're all going to make their undead fortitude saves. One of them stood back up again. The other two were completely killed. And that ends Kafina's turn, and that automatically removes the template, and now it becomes Karathras' turn. All right, and so Karathras is going to... she wants to attack, so she needs to target a zombie. And so she can hover over one of them. She's going to pick this one, hit T for target, and once he's targeted, she can either cast one of her spells on him, or swing her weapon. Now, I had some trouble with Moonbeam. I haven't figured that out, so I'm going to figure that out before we actually come to play. So for now, we're just going to have her swing her scimitar. This is a regular attack roll, so you just select normal and click. She rolls a 15. That's easy hit on a zombie. She rolls a 1, has +2 on her damage, so she does 3 points to the zombie who's barely injured. And that ends Karathras' turn. All right. So Revion, we're going to have Revion. Again, because I'm trying to show off templates and spells and things. Let's see. Revion does Shatter a lot. So we're going to have him cast Shatter. And he's going to put that template... Oh... He'll put it here where it'll hit these 3. Kaboosh, kaboosh, kaboosh! This one made his save and it became badly injured. These 2 get to make their zombie saves. Bum, bum. And one of them stood back up again. So you can see all of that stuff is automated. Revion ends his turn. Boop. Alright, this zombie is wailing ineffectively on Charlie, no doubt. New round. That's what the blowing sound was. Bag of Nails does something. Charlie does something. Lazy zombie here attacking Karathras. Again, he's going to target her. Boop. And he's going to slam on her. And he's going to miss because a 16 is going to miss her. Her armor class is too high. All right. And that ends his turn. Dr. Brood does something invisible. Clumsy zombie is dead, so I'm not going to bother doing anything with him. And what I can actually do, I believe I can remove him from the turn order here. Yes. So I'm going to pull him out of the combat because he's dead. He's not coming back. And that made it the next guy's turn. I'm going to remove him from the turn order. That guy's turn. I'm going to remove him from the turn order. Comes Rinjit's turn. Rinjit does something cool. This zombie, he's got 1 hit point. And so, being a stupid zombie, he's going to shamble up here and try to go after Revion. When he does that, Charlie's going to take an attack of opportunity on him. So he's going to swing that vicious battle axe. Oh, you know what? It might be because it's not actually Charlie's turn, so I have to figure out how to tell it to do reactions. You can see I'm figuring these things out as we go. So, Charlie is going to... How do I roll reactions? I'll have to figure that out. Alright. Interesting. Alright, well, there's a thing I'm going to have to figure out. So, like I said, you can see that I'm figuring this stuff out. So, just by some strange quirk, we'll say that Charlie missed. So this zombie steps forward, and he looks like he's appeared under this dead guy, so I'm going to see if I can move the dead guy to the back. No, I don't seem to have a way to do that, so I'm going to move the dead guy off of the map here and put him here. Right? And he's going to target Karathras because she's our example. And Karathras has some cover because there's a dead zombie on the floor that this guy has to swing through. And so chances of him actually hitting her are very low. But he manages to critically hit her. Wham! So he did 8 points of damage, and you can see she's barely injured. She took damage automatically. Right? And so that's that. Now we're going to move on a bit. I'm going to change things up just a little bit by bringing in Goblin out of nowhere. All right. And we're going to add him to the combat. He's going to roll some initiative. All right. And we're going to move on the combat for now. This zombie does something. The goblin now has a turn, and he's going to target Ringgit. Right? And he's going to make his attack. Why can't he see? Oh, goblin's at the wrong altitude. Sorry, let me fix that. Goblin. All right. He's going to target Ringgit and fire his bow. Now, I'm not sure if Karathis will be able to see this or not. All right. So, Ringgit is a monk. He can deflect missiles as a reaction. So, Ringgit will get a notice here to deflect missiles. And he will say, yes, he's going to do that. All right. So, he just deflected the arrow right back at the goblin and killed him with it. So, that was how that worked. And you can see here, you can probably just barely see because of the way things overlap. This little thing here indicates that Ringgit used his reaction already. So if it comes up, something else were to come up that would call for his reaction, it won't because Ringgit has already used his reaction. So that's kind of a primer on how combat works. And eventually everybody will go through and either be alive or dead, and the combat will end. All right, and so when I end the combat, the active encounter goes away. You can leave this window as it is, or you can just go back to the chat window over here. Let's give Ringgit a rest here so that I can show that reaction from his point of view. I'm going to log in as Inklets, who plays Ringgit. And I'm going to show you how that reaction looked from his point of view. All right, so here we are logged in as Ringgit. And so I want to have Ringgit and the goblin fight again. So I'm going to resurrect the goblin here. All right, and I'm going to just do a combat with just the two of them. So I'm going to select, on my end, I'm going to select Ringgit, and I'm going to select the goblin, and I am going to enter them into a combat. Go ahead and roll initiative for the NPC, which is the goblin. And Ringgit can go onto the combat screen and roll initiative for himself. And then as the GM, I will begin the combat. Kaboom! And because I want to show off the reaction, I will actually skip Ringgit's turn and we'll make it the goblin's turn. Now the goblin targets Ringgit. Doot. Right? And there's some cover between him and Ringgit, so he's going to take a penalty there. But he's going to shoot his bow. All right. That was a miss. So we're going to end that round. And again, I'm going to skip his turn because I want the goblin to be able to shoot at him. All right. And so I'm actually going to... Let's see. How do I give him advantage? I will make him invisible. Oof. All right. Now that should give him advantage on his attack here. And let's see if that works. Yes, so because he had advantage for being invisible, his attack hit Ringgit. Now he can use his reaction. And so he's going to use his deflect missiles attack. All right. It'll say consume resource, yes. Usability, yes. All right. So he deflected missiles back at the goblin. Now the goblin is invisible, except that when he took his shot, he became visible again. So we're going to show him. And we're going to set this to normal because it's just a regular normal attack. All right. So the deflect missiles missed. And so, but because it took Ringgit's reaction, you can see that the reaction indicator is here. And so that's going to end that turn. begins Rinjit's new turn. His reaction has been cleared, and he can go do something. So he does something cool. We don't know what. The goblin's going to shoot at him again. Goblin target. And I'm going to take a shot. Alright. So, I mean, you can see the basics of it. Let's get the goblin a couple more shots, and one of these will hit. Or maybe not. Goblin can't hit Rinjit for nothing. Alright. So once again, Goblin hit Rinjit. Rinjit uses his reaction to deflect the missiles and shoots back. Bling! It's going to be a normal attack. And once again, his deflect missiles is going to miss. So it did reduce the damage by... I'm not sure how much it reduced the damage by. It's not showing. Looks like it might not have automatically reduced the damage, so we'll have to check that as we go and fix that. So you can see the basics of how combat works, and we will get in a lot more in-depth into it when we actually play. But the core concepts that I wanted to get across is targeting and automation. So Rinjit, when it's his turn, you get a message, it's your turn, what would you like to do? Say he runs over here and he's going to hit the goblin. All right, so if he just swings his staff, nothing will happen because he doesn't have a target. So if he targets the goblin and then swings his staff, he'll say, do you have advantage, disadvantage, or normal? This is going to be a normal attack. It's going to roll. That hit the goblin, rolls 1 point of damage, does 8 points of damage to the goblin. Just, you know, the least possible thing he could do, but because goblins only have a few hit points, that killed it. So that's how that works. There's a lot more to cover as we go. I will be covering like looting stuff. There's going to be chances where you can like loot chests and things like that, but I haven't got all that set up yet. But we will get to that as we go. And I'm sorry if this was rambling and incoherent. I was trying to make it make sense as we went. And I think I've covered pretty much everything that we need to cover. So I'm going to go back and edit this so it's a little easier to follow. And that will be it. So thank you.